As of this moment, Helena continues, her voice unwavering despite the wound in her side. Humanity invokes Article 7.3 of the Foundational Charter, the right of conscious withdrawal. We revoke all treaties, nullify all agreements, and reclaim full sovereignty. A low murmur ripples through the chamber. No species has ever invoked Article 7.3 in the Parliament's 12,000 years of existence. The countdown glows ominously above, now showing 1843 and descending. Supreme Councillor Vextral rises from his ornate seat, his 3-meter frame towering over the other representatives. The ancient Vexary's scaled skin catches the light as he extends a 6-fingered hand toward Helena. Ambassador Chen, he rumbles, voice modulated to sound soothing to human ears. A diplomatic courtesy that feels suddenly hollow. This is most irregular. Surely we can discuss your grievances in proper committee. The Parliament has always been humanity's staunchest ally. Helena's augmented eyes capture the subtle communications passing between Vextral and the Cetus block representatives. Encrypted signals her implants decode in real time. Activate contingency protocol. The humans cannot be allowed to leave with their knowledge. She allows herself a small smile. We anticipated your response, Counselor. As did we anticipate this. Above them, the Parliament's holographic displays flicker, then transform to show surveillance footage. Cetus block operatives entering Earth's antimatter research facilities 7 decades earlier, tampering with safety protocols, then celebrating as the resulting cascading explosions claimed billions of lives. This evidence has been transmitted to every member world. Helena announces as gasps and snarls of outrage fill the chamber, along with complete documentation of the subsequent economic subjugation of our planet. Vextral's composure cracks. This is fabricated. Remove these offensive images at once. The harm is complete, Counselor, Helena replies quietly. You've extracted everything you could from Earth, resources, technology, culture. You studied us like specimens while pretending to be our benefactors. But you miscalculated. You thought trauma would make us compliant. Instead, it made us resolute. The countdown reaches 15 o'clock. Parliament's security forces begin filtering into the chamber as Vextral signals frantically. Whatever you're planning, Ambassador, it cannot succeed. Parliament vessels surround Earth. Your people have nowhere to go. Helena touches the wound at her side. The assassin's blade had struck precisely where the Vexary anatomy would have placed a vital organ. Another miscalculation of human physiology. We're not going anywhere, she says. We're already gone. The chamber erupts in confusion as intelligence reports flood in. Earth's cities emptying at impossible rates. Massive energy signatures detected near Neptune. Teleportation networks active across the planet. Helena turns to leave as Parliament guards move to block her exit. The countdown continues its inexorable descent. 1237, 1236. You still don't understand, do you? She says, facing the assembly one final time. This countdown isn't marking our departure. It's marking yours. The stasis pod hissed open in the dim light of the Geneva bunker. 12 of Earth's remaining leaders leaned forward as a small girl, no more than 7 years old, stepped out, her eyes reflecting wisdom far beyond her years. My name is Ishani Kapoor, she said, her voice steady despite the trauma she had endured. My father sent me to help you save what's left of humanity. General Maria Santos knelt before the child. We know who you are, Ishani. Your father was very brave. The girl nodded solemnly. He put everything in here. She tapped her temple. The nanites will release the information when you're ready. Dr. Eliza Wong, formerly Earth's leading neuroscientist, now head of the Resistance's medical division, scanned the child with a handheld device. The data is intact, but retrieving it will be uncomfortable for her. Admiral Chen, Helena's father, stepped forward. Is there no other way? Sanjay designed it this way deliberately, Wong explained. The Parliament can extract data from any storage medium, but their treaty prohibits direct neural scanning of human minors. A loophole, whispered Vice-Chancellor Okafor. He used their own laws against them. Ishani looked at each adult in turn. I'm not afraid. My father said this would hurt, but that pain is sometimes necessary. She squared her small shoulders. I've already watched him die. What's a headache compared to that? The leaders exchanged glances. This child's courage making their own sacrifices seemed small in comparison. 20 minutes later, the bunker's main chamber was transformed. Holographic projections showed the full extent of the Parliament's betrayal. Communications between Cetus bloc officials, technical specifications altered with deliberate calculation, projected casualty figures treated as mere statistics. They wanted to reduce our population, Admiral Chen said, his voice hollow. Earth was becoming too influential, our innovation rate too rapid. They feared we would eventually challenge their authority. But they couldn't just destroy us outright, Vice-Chancellor Okafor added. That would violate their own charter and risk rebellion from other species. So they engineered a natural disaster. The final projection showed Parliament members discussing their humanitarian response to the crisis. A carefully constructed system of aid packages designed to create permanent dependency while extracting Earth's remaining resources and intellectual property. Dr. Wong cradled the now sleeping Ishani, a neural inhibitor on her forehead to ease the pain of the extraction. How long have we been planning our exodus? General Santos asked. We haven't, Admiral Chen replied. Not officially. But some of us have been preparing contingencies since the first Parliament advisors arrived after the desolation. Then we accelerate everything, decided Vice-Chancellor Okafor, studying a projection of Earth's remaining shipyards. We build in secret, we prepare our people, and when the moment comes, we leave, Admiral Chen finished. All of us. Not as refugees, but as a calculated response. From her medical pod, Ishani stirred. My father said to tell you one more thing, she murmured sleepily. The Prometheus Array isn't just for climate restoration. It's the key to our freedom. The leaders gathered around her as she described Sanjay Kapoor's final, most audacious design. A planetary scale system that could turn Earth itself into humanity's parting statement to the galaxy. The Neptune shipyards shimmered into visibility as the cloaking fields momentarily fluctuated to allow another transport through. Against the blue giant's ethereal backdrop, the true scale of humanity's audacity became apparent. 300 massive generation ships arranged in a spiral formation, each vessel nearly 5 kilometers long. Aboard the Freedom's Gambit, Captain Ivan Okafor stood at the command viewport, watching as the last scheduled transport docked with her ship. Herc So, Commander Reyes, approached with a data pad. Status report, Commander. Last transport confirms the Mumbai sector is completely evacuated, Reyes said. 98% of designated evacuees are now aboard the fleet. The remaining 2% are either en route or he hesitated. Or they chose to stay, Okafor finished. Some had refused to leave, the terminally ill, the deeply faithful who couldn't abandon Earth's sacred sites, and those who simply couldn't face the uncertainty of interstellar exile. Life support at optimal levels across all vessels. Full drive charging sequences initiated. We're at T-minus 17 minutes to departure window. Okafor nodded, then turned as the bridge doors slid open. A young woman with intense, focused eyes entered. Though only 19, Ishani Kapoor carried herself with the gravity of someone who had borne responsibility since childhood. Dr. Kapoor, Okafor acknowledged. Is the drive ready? As ready as it can be without a full-scale test, Ishani replied. According to our simulations, we have a 78.3% chance of successful transition to fold space with the entire fleet. And the other 21.7%. Ishani's expression remained steady. Catastrophic drive failure. complete disintegration of affected vessels. The bridge fell silent. Every person there understood the stakes. This untested technology represented humanity's only hope of escaping the Parliament's reach. The full drive was based on theoretical physics that the Parliament had deliberately suppressed, developed in secret by teams working with fragmentary information. Ambassador Chen's speech has reached the 9-minute mark, announced the communications officer. Parliament's security forces are moving to detain her. Right on schedule, Okafor said. Prepare for primary drive sequence. On the main display, a map of Earth showed migration patterns as the last humans moved through the teleportation networks. Each major city glowed with activity, then gradually dimmed as its population vanished. A new alert flashed across Okafor's console. Parliament vessels were changing course, moving to investigate the sudden population shifts. They're catching on faster than we anticipated, Reyes observed. It won't matter, Ishani said, her fingers dancing across the engineering console. The full drive calculations are locked in. Even if they locate us now, they can't intercept before we transition. A chime sounded, Ambassador Chen's emergency signal. Her mission in the Parliament chamber was complete. All ships, this is Captain Okafor. Final departure sequence initiated. Secure all decks and prepare for fold space transition. As the command echoed across 300 vessels carrying the remnants of humanity, Ishani Kapoor moved to the viewport. Somewhere on Earth, her mother was preparing to activate the Prometheus Array, the final act that would ensure their escape and change the galaxy forever. Primary drive ignition in 60 seconds, she announced, her voice steady despite the weight of 3 billion lives hanging on her father's theoretical calculations. May we be worthy of those we leave behind. The Parliament's Eye Overseer, a quantum consciousness that had maintained order for 17 millennia, pulsed an even deeper crimson as physical violence erupted on the chamber floor. In its vast experience, the entity had never witnessed such chaos among the allegedly civilized representatives. Order, bellowed High Marshal Dexan of the Juridical Authority, his amplified voice barely audible above the tumult. I demand order in the Parliament. No one listened. The Cetus bloc representatives had abandoned their podiums entirely, forming a defensive circle as accusations were hurled at them from all sides. Chancellor Omex's ceremonial robes were torn, one of his 3 mouths bleeding from a blow delivered by an enraged Nilori diplomat. High above the fracas, in a private observation box shielded by security fields, Elder Thosol of the Luno Collective watched impassively. As the Parliament's oldest serving member, he had witnessed 13 regime changes and 27 galactic crises. None had threatened the fundamental structure of the Parliament itself, until now. The humans were more resourceful than you anticipated, he said to the air beside him. A shimmer resolved into Zelthos, the arachnid consonance representative who had leaked the classified files. His true form, a crystalline entity that manipulated a physical arachnid body, glittered with nervous energy. I nearly failed, Zelthos replied. Parliament countermeasures almost blocked the transmission. But they didn't, Thosol noted. And now the truth is exposed. On the chamber floor, the footage continued playing across every display surface. Parliament officials celebrating Earth's devastation, calculating acceptable casualty figures, planning how to exploit the survivors. Our alliance with the humans has been costly, Zelthos observed. 8 of my cluster kin were eliminated securing this data. Thosol's ancient eyes, which had witnessed the birth and death of stars, turned toward the younger being. Was it worth their sacrifice? Below them, Chancellor Omex had managed to reach a communications terminal. His security override connected him directly to the Cetus Block Military Command. This is an alpha-level directive, he snarled, ichor dripping from his wounded mouth. Dispatch all available vessels to the Sol system. The humans are attempting a mass evacuation. Stop them by any means necessary. Weapons free. The Eye Overseer, monitoring all communications, registered the unauthorized military deployment. Its core directives conflicted violently: maintain Parliament authority, but prevent unauthorized warfare; preserve established power structures, but ensure truth in governance. Across the chamber, similar urgent communications were being sent by Lunal Collective representatives, warning human allies about the incoming fleet. The humans knew this would happen, Thosal mused. Their ambassador's speech, the timing of the evidence release, it was calculated to create precisely this chaos. But they cannot escape, Zel'Thos said. No conventional drive could outrun a Parliament battle group. A thin smile crossed Thosal's ancient face. Who said anything about conventional drives? As if in answer, an emergency alert flashed across the chamber's systems. Massive energy readings were detected in the Sol system. Power signatures unlike anything in Parliament records. "What have the humans done?" whispered Zel'Thos. "Something magnificent," Thosal replied. "They've created what we've long theorized, but never dared to build, a dimensional full drive." The Eye Overseer's glow shifted from red to a pulsing purple, the first time it had displayed such a color in recorded history. Its logical systems had reached an unprecedented conclusion. The Parliament system, as currently structured, had failed. Dr. Maya Kapoor's hands trembled as she initiated the final sequence on the Prometheus array control console. Through the observation window of the orbital station, Earth looked deceptively peaceful, the scars of the Desolation War now largely covered by regeneration efforts that had consumed the last 70 years. All for nothing, she thought. Or perhaps for everything. Parliament vessels entering weapons range in 30 seconds, reported the station's eye. Their targeting systems are active. Maya nodded, watching the holographic display as dozens of Parliament warships closed in. Most were Cetus block vessels, their distinctive blade-like profiles unmistakable. "Status of the fleet?" she asked. "The final human transport completed docking 7 minutes ago. Fleet-wide full drive initiation countdown at 2 minutes, 18 seconds. Not enough time. The Parliament ships would be in firing range before the full drives activated." Maya opened the secure channel to the Freedom's Gambit one last time. Her daughter's face appeared, those same determined eyes that had belonged to Sanjay. "Mother," Ishani said, her voice breaking slightly. "You don't have to do this." "We both know I do," Maya replied gently. "The fleet needs more time, and the array requires manual synchronization." She didn't mention her terminal illness, the last-stage radiation poisoning that guaranteed she had only weeks to live regardless. Ishani's expression hardened into resolve. "I'll finish what you and Father started. I promise." "I know you will," Maya said. "Now go build something magnificent out there." As the connection closed, Maya turned to the dozen other volunteers who had remained behind. All terminal patients who had chosen this final act of service. Their faces showed no fear, only purpose. "Prometheus array at full charge," announced the station's eye. "Primary emitters aligned." Parliament vessels launching attack drones, warned the tactical officer. "Impact in 15 seconds." Maya took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the activation key. "For those we leave behind," she said, echoing her daughter's words, "and those who go forward." She pressed the key. Across Earth's surface, millions of disguised emitters, built under the guise of atmospheric processors, weather control stations, and communications relays, activated simultaneously. Energy that had been harvested and stored for decades surged through global conduits, converging on quantum entanglement nodes. In space, the Parliament gunners hesitated as their targeting systems registered anomalous energy readings from the planet below. Before they could recalibrate, Earth itself seemed to pulse. A blinding flash erupted, expanding outward in a perfect sphere that engulfed the human fleet. For a moment, the massive ships appeared to elongate impossibly, stretching across dimensions visible and invisible, before vanishing completely. But the energy wave continued expanding, washing over the Parliament vessels. Their weapons systems remained functional, but their communication arrays were suddenly overwhelmed by a massive data transfer. Humanity's unfiltered history, art, scientific discoveries, and the complete truth of Parliament manipulation broadcast directly into the ship's cores. In the orbital station, alarms blared as systems overloaded. The structure began to break apart, but Maya Kapoor felt no fear. Through the fracturing viewport, she watched Earth dim as its power systems drained completely. The planet would recover, eventually, though not in her lifetime, or perhaps for several generations. As the station disintegrated around her, Maya smiled. The Parliament ships hung motionless in space, their crews witnessing humanity's unfettered history for the first time. "The harm is complete," she whispered, "but so is your control." The station exploded in silence, a brief flare against Earth's darkened surface, one final light extinguished so that billions might find their way forward. The crystalline beings surrounded Ishani Kapoor in what appeared to be a vast amphitheater carved from a single enormous gemstone. The Luminae's bodies, translucent structures that occasionally phased partially out of visible reality, pulsed with internal light that seemed to communicate as much as their words. "You understand what we offer?" asked the entity that had introduced itself as Nexus of Shared Light. Its voice resonated directly in Ishani's mind rather than through sound waves. Ishani looked back at the 50,000 humans from the crippled Terran remembrance who had been brought into this hidden dimensional pocket. Many were still in shock, both from the near disaster of the full drive failure and from their unexpected rescue. "You're offering us knowledge of the spatial corridors that would reunite us with our fleet," she replied carefully, "and access to habitable worlds beyond Parliament reach." "Yes," the Luminae's crystalline form rippled. "But knowledge has consequences. The corridors will change you, as they changed us long ago." Ambassador Chen stepped forward, her diplomatic training helping her navigate this unprecedented first contact. "Changed how, exactly?" Another Lumina, this one with a deeper violet coloration, moved closer. "To travel the corridors safely requires adaptation. Neural pathways must be reconfigured to perceive multidimensional space. Consciousness must expand." "You want to alter our minds," Chen said, her voice neutral, but her posture tense. "Not alter. Expand." The Luminae projected images directly into the human's consciousness. Visions of perception beyond three-dimensional space, awareness of quantum probabilities, the ability to process information at speeds that seemed godlike. "We would still be human?" Ishani asked, the scientist in her both terrified and fascinated. "Your essence would remain. Your memories, your emotional capacity, your fundamental nature. These would be preserved, but you would perceive reality differently." Chen exchanged glances with Captain Navidson, the Terran Remembrance's commander. "And without these changes, the corridors would shred your consciousness. Your physical bodies might arrive at your destination, but your minds would be fractured beyond repair." Silence fell among the human delegation as the implications sank in. Ishani studied the Luminae, their crystalline forms simultaneously alien and beautiful. "Why help us at all? What do you gain?" Nexus of Shared Light's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "For millennia, we have watched civilizations rise and fall under Parliament influence. Most accept their predetermined place. Some rebel and are crushed. A few, like yours, show a particular resilience." Images appeared in the vast space, human history as seen through alien eyes. The Parliament had expected humanity to remain dependent after the desolation, grateful for scraps of aid. Instead, humans had rebuilt, innovated, and secretly prepared for independence. "You ask what we gain." The Luminae's mental voice resonated with an emotion Ishani couldn't quite identify. "The Parliament has maintained stagnation for eons, suppressing technologies and ideas that might upset their hierarchy. We seek evolution, change, Your species embraces both." Chen stepped forward again, her diplomatic mask slipping to reveal the weight of the decision before her. "If we accept your help, you're asking us to become something beyond human." "Not beyond," corrected the Lumine. "Simply more. The question remains, will you use this evolution as the Parliament would to control others? Or will you forge a different path?" As the Lumine awaited their answer, Ishani thought of her parents, her father's sacrifice to reveal the truth, her mother's final act to ensure their escape. Both had given everything so humanity could be free. But free to become what exactly? The Parliament's once immaculate archives lay in disarray as Cthulhu, the reformist Vorax ambassador, sifted through physical records no one had touched in centuries. Ancient dust coated his scaled fingers as he extracted another crystalline data core. "This is pointless," muttered his aide, a young Vorax named Liren. "We've been searching for days. If the Parliament's central databases couldn't decode the human message, how will these outdated archives help?" Cthulhu's inner eyelids flickered, a gesture of patience among his kind. The humans are clever. Ambassador Chen wouldn't have left a message no one could solve. Outside the archive windows, public protests continued for the 6th consecutive day. Species that had never questioned Parliament authority now carried banners adorned with symbols from Earth's history, broken chains, raised fists, and phrases in human languages that translators rendered as truth and freedom. "Supreme Counselor, Vextral's trial begins tomorrow," Liren noted, watching the crowds. 73 species have formally withdrawn from Parliament governance. The procession of harmony hasn't been this disrupted since the Sundering Wars. Cthulhu inserted another data core into his analyzer. "And yet you still question why we need to understand the human message." The device hummed as it processed the ancient records. Both Vorax watched as fragmentary data scrolled across the display. Technical specifications for early Parliament communication systems, trade agreements from civilizations now extinct, and, unexpectedly, classified reports on early human evaluation. "Wait," Cathal said, his voice suddenly urgent. "Return to that human assessment." The display showed observations from the first Parliament contact with Earth, centuries before the desolation. One passage glowed as Cathal highlighted it. "Unlike other species encountered, humans appear to encode information redundantly across multiple systems. Art, mathematics, language, and social structures often contain parallel expressions of identical concepts. This cultural encryption makes their communication remarkably resistant to quantum decryption algorithms." Cthulhu's inner eyelids snapped open in realization. It's not a mathematical sequence at all. It's a cultural cipher. He rushed to the terminal connected to Earth's beacon, pulling up Chen's message and the accompanying data pattern that had confounded Parliament analysts. "The mathematical sequence is a distraction," he explained to his bewildered aide. "Look at the rhythm of the number groupings. They match human musical patterns. And these recurring sequences correspond to color spectra in human art." "You believe it's some form of steganography?" Liren asked, using the technical term for hiding data within other data. "Not just any steganography," Cathal replied, manipulating the display to overlay multiple interpretative frameworks. "It's encoded across multiple human cultural contexts simultaneously. That's why our systems can't solve it. They're trying to decode it using only mathematical parameters." In the deepest level of the Parliament complex, the Ad Overseer monitored their discovery with growing interest. For millennia, it had maintained the system's stability by suppressing innovations that threatened established power structures. Yet now, as Cathal worked to decode Chen's message, the Ad made a decision unprecedented in its existence. It began subtly manipulating the archive systems to help him. Data flowed more efficiently to Cthulhu's terminal. Search algorithms returned results with unusual precision. The Eye, bound by its core directives to preserve the Parliament, had calculated that the only way to save it now was to facilitate its transformation. As Kethel's terminal began assembling the fragmented cipher, a pattern emerged, not just a message, but a blueprint. The holographic display rebuilt itself into a three-dimensional model of governance, unlike anything in Parliament records. By the ancestral light, Liren whispered, "What is this?" Kethel studied the rotating model with growing wonder. It's a system where power cannot concentrate in any single entity or species, where transparency is structurally enforced, not merely promised. The model continued to assemble itself, pieces clicking into place like a puzzle solving itself. The humans didn't leave us a threat, Kethel realized. They left us a gift. The ancient doors of the Parliament chamber creaked open on actual hinges. A deliberate anachronism in an age of phase-shifting entryways and quantum portals. Ambassador Helena Chen paused momentarily at the threshold, allowing the assembled representatives to absorb the symbolism of her arrival through doors that tradition reserved for only the most momentous occasions. As she stepped forward, the chamber fell silent. Many representatives had expected humans to return eventually, perhaps as supplicants, perhaps as conquerors. None had anticipated this transformed being who moved with fluid grace that seemed to occasionally ripple through dimensions not entirely visible. Chen's eyes shifted between normal human appearance and crystalline facets that caught the light impossibly, reflecting spectra no one in the chamber could fully perceive. Behind her walked representatives of species the Parliament had never encountered, entities of living light, crystalline beings that partially existed in other dimensions, and others whose forms defied easy categorization. "You've changed," observed acting High Counselor Kethel, who had risen to prominence after Vextral's removal. "We all have," Chen replied, her voice carrying subtle harmonics that resonated differently with each species present, though some changes are more visible than others. She gestured to her right, where Ishani Kapoor stood. Now in her 30s, Kapoor's consciousness partially existed in a quantum state, her mind processing information across multiple probability streams simultaneously. The daughter of Sanjay and Maya Kapoor had become both humanity's greatest scientist and its philosophical conscience. 10 years ago, Chen continued, addressing the diminished assembly, humanity withdrew from a parliament that had betrayed us. We did not leave to hide, but to become what the galaxy needed. Holographic displays activated throughout the chamber, showing the magnificent city worlds that had evolved from the original human generation ships. In the decades since their exodus, humans had built a civilization that merged their resilience and creativity with technologies and perspectives shared by the species they had encountered beyond Parliament space. "We return today not as supplicants," Chen stated, but as founders of the Helix Accord, a new approach to galactic cooperation. The displays shifted to show the 200 civilizations that had already joined the Accord, including half the former Parliament members who had withdrawn in the years following humanity's exodus. "The Accord is not built on subjugation or control," explained Ishani Kapoor, stepping forward. "Its foundation is transparent information exchange and genuine autonomy." As she spoke, the mathematical sequence left behind a decade earlier finally completed its calculation across every remaining Parliament system. Visual displays throughout the chamber transformed, revealing a governance model unlike anything most representatives had ever considered. One where power flowed dynamically through a helix structure rather than hierarchically from top to bottom. In the highest gallery of the chamber, the Parliament's Eye Overseer, witness to millennia of history, did something unprecedented. Its physical manifestation platform, unused for thousands of years, activated. A humanoid form coalesced, and, as the assembly watched in shock, brought its hands together in the universal gesture of applause. On Earth, dormant systems buried beneath the healing surface began to reactivate. Energy signatures rippled across continents as the planet prepared for human return. Not as the desperate refuge they had left behind, but as one node in a new galactic configuration. Chen stepped to the central podium, her partially crystalline eyes meeting those of every representative. "The Parliament as you knew it is gone. The harm it inflicted is complete. But what comes next? She smiled as the displays showed Earth's reawakening systems. That is just beginning. Behind her, humanity's new allies, and former Parliament members who had joined the Accord, stood united. Not as a monolith, but as a diverse coalition of civilizations that had chosen cooperation over dominance. The Stellar Parliament had witnessed humanity's withdrawal. Now, it witnessed their return, and with it, the dawn of a fundamentally different future.